Welcome to Minutes by Minute. I'm Elgin Nichols.
And I'm Dave Kenny.
And we're here to talk about what the village and the township legislators, people on the councils, and various groups are doing to make legislation for you and laws and all that good stuff affects you.
And just remember, these are the people that you elected or the commissions or committees that they've appointed, and the decisions that they make, whether you live in a Village of Oxford, Oxford Township, Village of Leonard, or Addison Township, those decisions directly affect you.
Do they ever? And you know what? We have an election coming up, and it's going to be on what date?
Oh, no, you're not going to do that to me again.
Oh,
It's November 5th.
No!
No, it isn't. It's November 4th.
He wants you to come in a day late. I want you to vote. So you show up November 4th, and you'll get an opportunity to vote. Not November 5th.
Anyhow, if you're unsure about what some of the candidates stand for, be sure and go to your local library or municipal office and pick up the League of Women Voters brochure. And these are where the candidates actually say what they stand for, and there's not so much mudslinging in there. So there you go.
They do a pretty good job, too.
They do an excellent
Going
job.
through that. That's rather interesting.
And
they get into
there's-
some pretty good detail.
Well, you're asked to vote for what could be, pretty obscure candidates, Board of Regents for the university of this, that, and the other thing, local judges, but it basically lets them say exactly what they stand for.
You know, I'm sure that we wouldn't be the only ones that go into the voting booth and all of a sudden you see all these different things that you have to fill in. You don't have a clue. Let me see now. I'm Irish. I'll vote for O'Leary. O'Leary seems the guy, or Riley. However it goes,
Of course, there's people that will just pull that one big lever, or they used to pull a big lever that says Democrat or Republican.
Right.
But it still left them with all those independent people that they know little about, but that's what the League of Women Voters brochure will tell you.
Yep. And also with the internet, you can do a lot of exploration out there too to find out what's going on. Let's talk about the first meeting. First meeting is with Addison Township, and it's the Board of Trustees.
Board of Trustees.
Yep.
Is that a special meeting?
It was a special meeting. And,
It's always a special meeting.
Yeah, they're all special. There's always something special that comes out of the meetings, that's for sure. But anyway, this meeting was pretty much to cover the new building construction. Actually, it's going to be a composite of the old building with new addition put on.
Much like Oxford Township is in the process of doing right now.
Yes, right. Except they put a new building in originally in Oxford Township, and now they're expanding on the new building. Apparently they run out of room, huh?
Well, times change and so do needs.
Yes, they do. So anyway, Bruce Pearson, of course, is the chairperson for this trustees board, and of course the township supervisor. And they talked about the office arrangement and how it was going to be laid out. They had a plan up on the wall indicating, the new structure is going to be added. There's a wall to be removed, and then the interesting room. They're going to have it's for senior citizen groups and also for special groups that come in. And that room has a cathedral ceiling in it.
Otherwise known as a community center.
Yes, that's what it's going to be. And it's going to have a fireplace in it too. Very nicely designed, for that purpose. So,
how many square feet are they adding to the whole process?
Well, adding to, I don't know exactly how much they're adding to it, but it'll come to roughly 10,800 square feet by the time they're done.
That includes the old building?
Includes the old building.
Okay.
Yep. They're going to have, for example, an inner conference room set up so that if the supervisor has a special meeting, with his trustees or whatever, they can have a smaller room that they can discuss things with. Or maybe there's a contractor that comes in and they want to be private in terms of conversation. Bruce would have this right off from his office. And then, of course, they're going to have a massive, or not massive, but a pretty good size meeting room, for the meetings that they have, once a month.
So that'll all be changed around?
That will be changed around, yep. They're
Oh.
going to add, I think, an additional, how many, 500 square feet or so, or 400 square feet to the conference area now. But keep in mind that, they're building this building with the understanding, that maybe in the next 50 years, there will be more people attending meetings too, as the population growth, continues.
You don't design these things to meet your immediate needs. You plan for the future.
Right. And so that's a pretty sound... thinking that they have. they said one of the things that they're concerned with, of course, is acoustics in there as well, sound. And even the din of the sound going on within the offices, it was suggested that perhaps what they call white sound be employed. Are you familiar with white sound?
I hear it all the time.
Sounds like water.
No,
I
I've worked in offices that had white sound, basically the little gizmos that hiss a lot.
Yeah, and and I did too.
And what they do basically is they, especially for offices that are very close together, they allow private conversations to take place without being overheard 3 offices down.
Yeah, what they do is they mask the sound, the ambient sound within the area. And I've worked in those environments before, and I thought to myself, does this really work? Because you can't really tell, you know.
Well, I've worked, the office that I had that had that kind of sound suppression in it originally started out as highly soundproofed. They found out quickly you could hear conversations 5 offices down. So they had to put these things in.
Well, that happens from cell phones. I mean, there could be a mile down the road.
Oh, sure.
Anyway, you get the sound there. They're also going to have a kitchen that they can prepare food, for senior citizens, that kind of thing, that if they want to have a meal put on. Yes, they even considered a bathroom.
No.
Yeah, no, they're going to have a couple of bathrooms there.
Oh.
Of course, that's based on
This
the code
would be different
requirement.
than the other ones we were talking about the
Oh,
previous
yes.
week that are out in the field.
The ones that are out in the field are for, I'm not sure, for the Bears or
I
whatever,
see.
but they're out there standalone.
Well, good for them.
restrooms. Yeah. That's a different subject. That's under Parks and Recreation, which we'll get involved in that some
I
other
see.
day.
Another day, another time.
Another day, another time. We'll find out how those Bears like their outhouses. They're pretty heavy. They weigh about 6,000 pounds or so, or 5,000 pounds. So the
Yeah.
Bears aren't going to carry them off. That's a good thing.
Well,
Bear
problem
can
is, of course, is interviewing them to find out if they really like it or not.
Hey, that's what's happening. Anyway, let's get back to the subject.
Lose
now.
a lot
You
of
have me-
interviewers that way.
You have me rolling in the wrong direction here. You do know that.
That's what I
don't
do for a job. Yep.
you? Is that what it is? Okay. So anyway, there's a lot of things going on
working.
there. It's going to cost. Yeah, it is working. The budget, of course, for this construction project is roughly around $1.5 million. It looks like it'll cost, with some renovations, some alterations to the plan, roughly about $1,600,000 or so within that
And
area.
the follow-up question is, when do they expect this thing to be completed?
Well, whenever you write the check, they'll be ready,
Oh, thanks a lot.
right?
No, do they have a deadline?
They do have a date, a tentative date that they like to have this completed, but nothing really stamped in, shall we
Okay.
say, concrete
All right.
yet.
All right.
Okay. That is the Addison Township Board of Trustees. Is there anything you want to add to that at all?
No, you got all the notes.
I intend to keep it that way too.
Won't let me read them at all.
The next subject we're going to talk about is the Oxford Township Board of Trustees, because they
Right.
had a meeting also. And of course, Bill Dunn runs that
Right.
particular meeting, and he is the township supervisor for Oxford Township. The first person that came to the podium was Fire Chief Pete Schultz. And Pete said that there have been some contractors interviewed as potential builders of the addition that they want to put on the fire.
And this is the one in downtown Oxford.
The one in downtown Oxford, yes. The site plan also, he pointed out, was approved also by the Village Planning Commission.
Okay.
Well, you know what?
Well, they fell short last time by the Planning Commission, didn't they, a little bit?
We'll talk about that shortness in a few moments.
Oh,
when we
okey-dokey.
return, right after this. Yeah. Welcome back to Minutes by Minute. I'm Elgin Nichols.
And I'm Dave Kenny.
And one thing we want to say just before we go much further in this program is that everything we say here is pretty much the truth. Well, some of the truth.
At least 50%.
Part of the truth.
If we're right on target, about 50%.
Pretty close, pretty close. Anyway, we were talking about the Oxford Township Board of Trustees. They had a meeting, and Pete Schultz stood up and he said, hey, our building is going to be put up, believe it or not, the addition, that the site plan has been approved.
Good.
For the village, and we're ready to go. We're entertaining now contractors, so, we're going to have actually people that can build this thing. We're not going to volunteer my services with a hammer and saw and everything. So it should work out pretty well. They did talk about property taxes to some degree as the next subject.
Segueing from the fire chief.
Oh, yes, from the fire chief.
Okay.
Fire chief says, thanks, went and sat down.
Good.
So he's a man of a few words, though. When he speaks, you listen.
But on the next subject, property taxes, I'm sure there's a lot of words.
Well, one of the words that you want to listen to is if he yells out, fire!
Oh.
Fire, yeah, it could be a problem. Anyway, property taxes are a big issue that they talked about. Also, they have they had to get some approvals for, as far as millage that's coming up on with their general fund.
Millages and property taxes go hand in hand, don't they?
They do. Actually, property taxes are a little bit different
Then what?
than the general fund taxes that are involved. And I'll discuss that with you in just 2 seconds here. They had public comment on it, and a gentleman stood up and he said, hold it, wait a minute, are you raising taxes on us? And Bill Dunn says, no. He says, we're not raising taxes. We're just trying to establish the budget for the allocation that people have already allowed us to have, to do this thing. And he says, oh, he says, you're not raising taxes. He says, no. He said, that's under a different millage.
Oh.
And he says, well, what about the fire department thing that's coming up on the ballot? He says, yeah, he said, that's a different issue. But yeah, if you decide to do that, then
Of course, if you're the one paying, a tax is a tax is a tax.
Tax is a tax is a tax. But let's
A
break
rose by any other name.
yeah, let's break those little critters into something else, shall we? Okay.
But you were saying that the property tax is different than the general fund tax. How is the differ?
Okay. The general fund consists of a whole lot of different subtaxes within it. For example, let me see. One of them is the library tax, which is in there, or fund, or allocation for it.
The fire station would be the other one.
And it's 1.38 mils for that. Then,
Additional?
yeah.
Now, they got turned down last time, didn't they?
Yeah, well, no, this is something different.
Oh, okay.
This is a commitment that the township has, period.
Oh, okay.
Without raising it, to any other level. The money that they're looking for now is operational tax increase in order to propose operational coverage.
Okay.
So, and I think it comes to a tune of about 300,000 when it's all said and done over a number of years. So that's not a whole lot of money, that they're requesting on the ballot.
Of course, they have a
coming
couple
up
of bucks in their
November.
pocket.
They do have, and of course you always want some protection, in general fund. And if you see that your daily expenses are getting higher and you don't have the funds to cover it through normal operation, then you look for methods to do that rather than absorbing all your
But that's usually
rainy day funds.
a short-term solution.
It is. Okay, so the general fund is allocated 0.9500 mils, or roughly about $2 million to cover their expenses. Road fund budget is $36,021, and the police contract
Road fund, where do those taxes come
cover
from?
salt and everything. That comes out of this money that they allocate, the people allocated
From
for the
property
budget.
tax.
From, yeah. yeah, they get their money. Actually selling apples out on the street. Here, this is for the township. Buy this apple for $8,655,000.
Well,
That's how it works.
beats a tin can with pencils.
Yeah, right. Well, make sure the tin can is empty
Right.
if you're going to beat on it. Okay. So anyway, they have the road fund, which is $36,000 roughly to operate, so that is one fund. Police contract fund is over $2 million, and it's 2.9152. That's kind of an odd number, but
But these are not, how should I say it? Do these actually have a millage associated with them, or are they just
Sure.
part of the general
Yeah,
fund.
it's
Okay.
part of the budget, and this is the amount of millage that's cut from that.
Okay, okay.
Uh,
All right.
you
So
know,
it's
in
just
order to
not,
cover the-
it's just
the
not
funding.
reallocated from a general pile.
They're not saying, hey, we need 9.65, we need 1.5 for this. No, it's already in there. And it's just up to the trustees to divide it,
Right.
you know, accordingly.
Right.
So they can meet their expenses, their budgets. Parks and Recreation is a .8538. Cemetery Fund, $100,000 per year. And what they call the Advanced Life Support System is 1 mil.
So all of these organizations have to be there and put forward their programs and,
Yes.
in essence, negotiate for their piece of the pie.
Well, I think probably what they'll do is they'll look at the previous year's
Right.
expense, and they'll go back maybe 2-3 years and see how it's progressed.
That's true. But given a finite amount on the total fund, each of these entities has to basically negotiate to see that their end of the situation is covered.
Right. Well, here's the thing. If they look at it and they say, well, in the last 2 years, the Wash Your Doggy Fund has run out of money. I mean, they don't use it anymore.
Right.
So let's give it to our Wash the Cat Fund. And they'll put it in there. And all the Wash Your Cat Fund people, they show up and
Dogs
they say,
are a lot
yeah,
more cooperative.
those darn cats, they want to keep getting out of it. For some reason, you just can't baptize them. They just won't stay there.
Little heathens.
Right? So don't try to baptize your cat, folks. Won't work. So anyway, one of them is a cemetery fund too, which is $100,000 roughly.
I heard
So-
that's a sinking fund.
No, yeah, and that keeps them in place. I'll tell you, nobody's been known to leave there yet.
Okay.
Well, maybe, I don't know. Advanced Life Support System. 1 point. See, the thing is, people don't know that this money is being split up and allocated for these
Right.
particular reasons. So that's the reason why we talk
But
about it.
EMS is considered a different fund than the fire department
It
itself?
is.
Okay,
Yeah, the
Okay.
emergency
all right.
system is 1.5 mils as allocated for that use.
I would have thought of it was a sub budget to the fire department.
Well,
but
here's
it
one for you.
stands alone.
Here's one for you.
What's that?
Telecommunications.
Telecommunication.
Yeah,
Who's that?
that would be us.
Maybe not.
Maybe not.
I don't think so.
Explain to me.
That's their telecommunication, not ours. We're a separate entity.
Well, is that with the string and the 2 tin cans, or how's that work?
Whatever they need to do.
Okay, but anyway, they have $10,000 roughly.
Right.
10,000? Yeah, 10,886.
I don't think we could run our stations at that.
You know, we couldn't do that. Well, we probably could, but it'd
You'd
be a
have to
little
go.
Okay. Well, in that
Everyone
case,
gets a pink ticket except the manager.
yeah, he'd be the only guy here. Let him turn out the lights when it's all done. Okay, and building permit fund, $295,000 for building permit fund.
Oh,
They do need that. They're going to build buildings. Okay.
I heard
and then
they
there's
jacked that
safety
up.
path fund, $406,000 for safety path. You know, they're building safety paths all over
yeah,
the place.
yeah. That's a good thing.
It is.
Gets people out
Hey.
there and exercising and
And get this, NOTA is .2500. Now that doesn't include Addison Township. It only includes the township.
Right.
That's it. And
Addison Township is going to have a millage proposal in the election on November
they are going to do that
on November.
in November 4th,
Oh,
not the 5th,
right.
4th. Be there, don't be late. And also they talked about at this meeting, the Vets Hall. Somebody said, hey, let's sell the Vets Hall. Good idea. Okay. And you know what? We'll talk about that when we come back right after this. Welcome back to Minutes by Minute. I'm Elgin Nichols.
And I'm Dave Kenny.
And we're talking about the Oxford Township Board of Trustees meeting. And we worked our way right up to, hey, we have a building to sell. And it's
The Vets Hall and the associated parking lot.
Yep, there's a parking lot, I think a little less than an acre in there in the parking lot.
How many parking spaces are actually in that parking lot?
Well, I don't know what it would be, but it's according to zone, you know.
But right now, it's public parking lot. So
Public.
if they sell it to a private concern, what becomes of the public parking lot?
Well, it depends. And Mr. Snyder, who's a resident here and well known for purchasing property in Oxford Village.
And he
in
owns the
township,
building immediately adjacent to it.
He does. And he proposed a plan in which he would purchase not only the Vets building, which he says he really has no interest in as a building structure, period, but also the parking lot, because this all comprises property as a whole that would be part of his
Right,
already owned
he has
property.
other contiguous property that
does.
would make it one solid block.
So he says, hey, I'll change this into a development. I will make it productive for the village.
Did he say he was going to scrape the building?
He didn't say anything like that.
Oh, well then.
He just said, give me exclusive rights.
Ah,
And Jack Curtis says, He said, no, we're not going to give exclusive rights. He said, that's not the way we do
what does
things."
exclusive rights mean?
It means that he has the exclusive right to make the purchase, you know, of the property based on an agreement of
As a single
price.
bidder.
Yeah. Right now, they don't know how much the property is worth. Now, it did an evaluation, you know, through a bank evaluation kind of. If you were looking for a loan, that's what you would use as a basis for that. And that was like $500,000, you know, to do that. $516,000 or something along that line. And Bill Dunn says, hey, I don't think I'd pay $516,000 for the building. He said, I think they're way off. And Jack Curtison pointed out, you know, that, well, it's just for, you know.
Wasn't there some talk also of giving the village an opportunity to buy that property too?
They did, but the village don't have the money.
Well,
I don't think it's going to happen.
then they should raise taxes.
Well, no, that's something the village doesn't want to do. And I think this would force them to do that if they purchase
Yeah,
property.
I know.
But I think the residents then would look at it and say, what? You're buying property? And you're trying to watch the expenses? How are you going to do this?
What you going to put there?
Yeah, right. So anyway, I can't speak for the council and what they're going to do.
Well, the flip side of that is whatever Mr. Snyder, if he does purchase the property, or anyone else that's buying it as a commercial interest, they'll have to pay taxes and increase the coffers for the village.
Well, he pointed that out too. He says now you will have a taxable structure. You know,
Right.
once my development's put in, it'll actually generate, you know, capital for the village. You know,
Absolutely.
And part of the property he said I own is on township property. You know, that is conjunction with this, contiguous. So he
You
said
like that
both
word.
will. Yeah, I like it better than your segue, by the way.
Oh, by the way,
which this guy uses all the time.
he cringes whenever I say that.
Yeah. But anyway, they said, well, how are we going to sell this? How are we going to put it out to the public? And one resident stepped forward and he said, I think it should go in the newspaper. He said, that way the residents know what's going on, and they don't feel there's anything, you know, kind of shadowy going on. And
Is the township actually going through the process of letting a real estate agent handle this?
funny you should mention that.
I did.
You did, yes. Anyway, what's going to happen here is they all concluded that real estate should probably get involved because they'll know how much its true value is.
Right.
Not through evaluation, but true value. And
They'll put it out
Yeah.
in such a way
And they
that
put it in
many
such a
people
way.
will see it.
so the next question is, well, which real estate company should we use? Bill Dunn says, well, let's just pull out some names out of the hat. And Joe Ferrari says, no. He says, put a small committee together. He said, I'll be part of it. He said, have Curtis Wright, myself, interview various real estate companies, and one that we find is the best fit, let us make recommendation. You know, this is the route we'll go.
Well, there's
idea.
also the cost of doing the sale through a real estate agent,
Well, yes,
and
you
that
have
can be put out for
commissions.
that could be put out for bids.
Right. Well, like Joe Ferrari says, when we sit down, we talk to these different realtors, maybe instead of 4% or 6%,
Sure.
he said maybe it can be negotiable, you know. Maybe both properties will be in their hand to deal with. So
Good idea.
Joe's right. Yep.
Yep.
Very much. So that's pretty much what went on at the trustees meeting. Now we're going to hit real quick. Yeah. NODA. NODA had a meeting.
Guess what I don't have?
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Okay, we'll talk about that later.
Okay.
What you don't have. Believe me, folks, there's a lot of things he don't have. But this one tops the list, and we'll explain what that is. Usually he has at the end of the
They
segment.
dragged me into this thing at the last moment.
At the end of the segment, he has a list of different meetings that we're going to have in the future in the next week or so. Guess who doesn't have it? The same guy that said that the election is on the 5th of November. We know it's going to be on the 4th. Anyway, we're back to that one again. NODA, the director, Lynn Gustafson.
Lynn Gustafson.
You got it. Okay. She spoke and she said, actually the rides are up 8% over the previous month, but not in the same level as it was over a year ago. So that's a consideration that they have to watch for. They're going to get a new van, but it hasn't been delivered yet. So she wanted to make note of that. 3 new vans she expects maybe next year that they can get, because some of the vans that they have are starting to show age, and after certain mileage and so forth, and you start repairs, it makes sense to replace them. So that's within their budget. They also have a grant available at $56,000 for minivans available, and it has to be used, I think, by September of next year. So
Use it or lose it.
use it or lose it, yes. And there's also a grant available for equipment, computer type equipment that each of the buses would be equipped with, kind of a laptop thing where it will provide GPS and so forth, for the drivers.
I see.
All
that
those
with-
drivers keep getting lost out there.
You can do that with a cell phone.
Yeah, so, yeah, you could. Yeah, you could do that, but they won't buy them cell phones, so
You can buy them a computer.
they'll buy them a computer. But they have a grant for computers. I don't think they'll get a grant for cell phones.
All right.
So you have to play with what the government gives you, So anyway, it is what it is. And so they'll have GPS systems, so folks, they won't get lost as often. So the other thing is signs. They said, hey, this election is coming up. It's Addison Township. We need to have these people vote for this because otherwise we're going to lose this service. And there's people that really count on this service in Addison
And this is the
Township.
second time in the barrel for Addison
Yep.
Township
Yep.
because the voters turned it down last time.
By, I think it was 26 votes.
Oh, it's a ridiculous small
Yeah.
vote.
So
with the national election coming up, I'm sure that a lot more voters will be out there.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, there has to be a information program to say exactly what the good benefits are of having NODA in your community.
yeah, and they do have information that's going out, to the residents, that kind of thing, and also the signage indicating that what the process is and what they need to do. Let me see now. Question on the ballot. Oh, guy stands up. He says, "Hey," he says, "is the NODA question going to be on the front of the ballot or in the back? Because if it's in the back, maybe people won't realize it's back there."
Well, those kinds of things generally are in the back of the ballot.
They are in the back of the ballot, and of course, Bruce Pearson said yes. They're going to be pretty much where they were last time, and same wording and everything too. So that's not going to change a whole lot. And
Is it still time to get absentee ballots, by the way?
I don't know what the deadline is on that, but
Neither do I.
Yeah, but I do
But it
know
might
that,
be if there is still time, that might be an interesting thing to do. Then you can go through the ballot at your leisure.
the main thing is get out there and vote on November 4th. It's a serious election. Know your candidates. I'm Elgin Nichols,
And I'm Dave Kenny.
and we'll catch you next time on Minutes by Minute.
See you then.
You're watching OCTV, Oxford Community Television, serving Oxford, Addison Township, and the Village of Leonard.